Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Eamon Beyond. Today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And this is the week before Spider-Man.
And Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
And Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which are both releasing on the same day, which is just
And the day
craziness.
of Sonic Superstars, that came out today. If that one's just on the back burner for me.
It turned out to be pretty good, right?
I've heard
it was
good things, yeah.
I heard the Steam edition boots from the Epic launcher.
It sure does, yep.
That's so dumb.
Pretty funny.
So ridiculous.
For a Sega game. What are they doing?
Yeah. Why would you... That's so dumb. I personally hate when a PC game boots off a third-party launcher.
I'm just furious with Epic right now for laying off half of BandCamp.
Yeah.
Well, they sold.
Oh yeah,
BandCamp.
didn't they buy BandCamp and then
they bought BandCamp
immediately fire everyone?
So BandCamp was a profitable company. They bought it basically only to use as ammunition in a lawsuit they had with Google, and then decided it wasn't making enough money and sold it off very recently, along with the Epic layoffs, and 50% of the BandCamp staff got fired. So
they sold BandCamp.
Yes.
To who?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Song Trader,
Okay.
I think.
I remember
the thing is,
back in the day.
BandCamp was a perfectly sustainable, profitable company, and Epic came in and ruined it. And that, I don't know. Does that bode well?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times this is the consequence of one major megacorp gobbling up another company.
Yeah, I'm just curious about how Xbox is going to handle things as they continue to acquire.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is one piece of news that sort of happened almost quietly because it was a given, but the deal, the ink has been dried now, basically. The deal has gone through. Xbox even put out a trailer for the merger, which was a little cringy to me.
Yeah, it was
not
awful.
Gonna lie.
It was really bad, yeah.
But good for them, I guess. Hopefully,
welcome to the family.
Yeah, Activision Blizzard is...
Hope you're done making...
Employees are happier under Xbox than they were under their own leadership, so...
Xbox now owns Banjo-Kazooie, Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot. And as far as we know, has no plans to do anything with any of them.
Yep.
Yeah, because Spyro devs are working on COD.
Yep.
Crash devs are also working on COD?
Yeah, didn't Toys for Bob do Crash 4?
Did they?
Yeah,
they might have. I don't know.
Yeah, and was those were the ones who did the Spyro remaster as well. So, and they're all working on COD now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The COD mines.
Here's hoping Microsoft manages them better, and I think there's a chance of that happening. I feel like they might.
Phil Spencer announces tomorrow that Call of Duty is now a twice a decade franchise.
Oh, I was going the other way.
Twice a year?
It's going to be twice a year.
Oh my god.
Franchise.
It's canceled. We're not doing it anymore.
No, they are going to put out Call of Duty more seldomly. They said that. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So it won't be yearly anymore, allegedly. So after Modern Warfare 3, which is this year.
Now that it's a Game Pass game, it doesn't really need to be.
Yeah.
And none of it's on Game Pass yet, which is curious, I guess. I don't know why.
I'm sure they're all coming together. Otherwise, what's the point of the whole thing?
I know, but I guess I just kind of thought the ink is dry. Let's just put them on there. They're probably saving it because they like to do quote unquote releases on Game Pass. They're probably just waiting for a dry month, and it's kind of been it's been a big month for Game Pass. So,
well, I mean, now is a great time to do it. Nintendo's getting a massive exclusive. Sony's getting a massive exclusive. Xbox could have something on there to sort of stay in the conversation if they were to do it this month. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. We got off on 20 tangents in the first second of the show, but I did want to mention Spider-Man 91 on Metacritic, which came as a huge surprise to me because while I liked the first game a lot, I didn't think it was a 90 plus kind of game.
No, definitely not. It was
to see this one get these scores. Insomniac hasn't gotten a 90 plus on one of their games since the PS2 era, so this is a pretty big deal for them.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I'm curious.
People are calling it, I've heard it called one of the best superhero games of all time, alongside like Arkham City. So that's
I was gonna
pretty
say that's
huge
not
praise.
the highest bar in the world. I mean, the Arkham games are great, but none of them were 90s. Like,
Well, I mean, in your opinion, I guess, but
Were any of them
Asylum
literally?
and City were both over 90. Yeah.
really, that is the least deserved thing I've ever heard. Those are like really good 80s. Like,
No, Asylum and City were really good, man. I don't know.
I agree.
Maybe back
They were also
back
as
in the
good
day
as
they hit
Knight.
harder.
I played them at launch. Like, they were good games.
Yeah, Night was way worse, I thought. But
I think Asylum is the best of the trilogy, and then it's kind of just
I kind
it's like
of
very minor steps down in each game.
I can respect that. It's close between Asylum and City for me, but I think City for me takes it just because like the way it opened up really sort of blew my mind at the time. But
Yeah. I think I
Anyway.
would probably put Asylum over Spider-Man 2018, though. I don't think I would City or Night, though.
yeah, I don't know. I'd still probably put City at the top, like above Spider-Man. But I'm excited to play this second Spider-Man.
I just don't like pointless open worlds. And, like, all of the actual content in City I think was better than Asylum. But then you just had to walk around and fly around a bunch, and it was kind of boring.
Yeah, so apparently, like, the
I'm
open world stuff, the meaningless open world stuff is back in Spider-Man 2, but it's, like, completely optional, so...
Well, I don't mind it in Spider-Man. I think it's
Yeah.
dumb in Batman. In Spider-Man, it's fun to traverse. In Batman, like,
yeah,
the
it is
grappling-
fun to traverse.
Yeah.
It's not fun to do, like, chemistry puzzles as Peter Parker.
No, that was terrible.
and stealth missions
Yeah.
as Mary Jane, so hopefully that's gone or better or whatever, but we can talk about Spider-Man 2 next week. This week, I think we wanted to talk about boss fights. So we've talked about like difficulty in games, and we've kind of skirted around this topic a bit, but we haven't really sat down and discussed boss fights. I think nothing to me in video games, like nothing hits quite as good as a good boss fight.
Really?
Like I love boss fights in video games.
See, I feel the
Like-
opposite. I think they're often like tacked on, like in like I don't know. I think that's just the genres you like. Like I love a boss fight in a Souls game,
Yeah,
but-
I mean, obviously that's kind of what I'm thinking of.
but mostly when
Right,
I'm
but,
playing
like-
a platformer, like I don't know. I
I
feel like
s-
they're there because
I don't
they
know,
have
like-
to be.
I think a lot of the times, and I'm going to exclude FromSoft for the moment, just for the sake of this discussion. But I think a lot of the times, like, I just love, like, the ceremony of a boss fight, you know? Like, the health bar popping up, the new music playing, and, like even in, like, games, you know, like, going back a long ways, games like, you know, Sonic Adventure 2, and games like that, I feel like...
See, perfect example of I would take every boss fight out of that game except maybe like the final one. I think they're just the worst part.
Yeah,
of the
the
game.
final one... Yeah, the final one was a lot of fun. But, like...
Yeah. I mean, the
I don't know.
ceremony's there. You're right, but like,
I mean, I think the minute-to-minute gameplay is obviously better, but I do like them in the sense that they provide a change of pace. And a lot of games, they're kind of like a midterm exam on what you've learned throughout the game.
Yeah.
At least the way that's the way they are in a lot of like FromSoft and From Software like adjacent games.
I think that's the best implementation of them. I'm realizing boss fights tend to be like my favorite parts of JRPGs, probably as well. Like Dragon Quest.
Oh yeah,
11 or
JRPGs do
Persona
boss
5.
fights. Do boss fights really well.
Like that's the test, or even like Omori, which isn't really a JRPG, although it plays one on TV, I guess. Like that like the boss fight where the combat mechanics finally clicked for me became extremely fun in that game. And like a lot of the like random combat you can just kind of brute force your way through.
Yeah. No, I think I've mentioned Sekiro in the past on this show, and I really do think like Ishin the Sword Saint, like the final boss of that game, is probably one of the best boss fights I've ever done in my life. Like it really, like if you haven't mastered the game's mechanics, I don't think you can cheese your way through this boss. Like it's definitely like a final exam in that, like, okay, like do you know how to like parry? Do you know how to like Mikiri counter? Do you know how to dodge properly? Do you know how to like reflect lightning properly? Like it checks all of those things and like pushes you to really master its systems. And yeah, one of the best boss fights I can think of right now.
Do you guys have like a white whale boss fight that you've never beaten? I imagine you
Like-
don't, Ahmed, because you would like bash.
No,
your head against a
I'm
wall
way
until
too
you-
sweaty. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I will waste my entire
You've
day.
also
in front
never
of the
played
boss.
Castlevania 1, so
That's true. I have not.
I have never
And
beat
also-
Dracula in Castlevania 1. I've gotten to him like 5 times, but there's no saving in that game, so like you gotta
that's-
beat him when you get there.
That's so hardcore.
Well, like it's not a game over. Like if you game over, you start right outside the door. It's just like I can't turn the NES off and come back to it later. And I don't play. I play on original hardware, so I've never been able. I've gotten to Dracula like 5 times. I've never beat him though because I don't know. I do it for like an hour or something, and I just get tired and turn it off.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I really enjoy. It seems like later games are not exactly punishing you for losing to a boss anymore. Like I remember in early Souls games, for example, sometimes you lose to a boss and you have to like go through like parts of a level or whatever.
Yeah.
To get back to him. But
So
nowadays, I think, you know, it's more modern practice to just stick you back outside the boss room, which
I
do
don't know if I
appreciate.
love. I'm very mixed on the boss run mechanics of a Souls game. I still think Dark Souls 1 is probably the best Souls game, even with Elden Ring in the conversation, I think. But I don't know, because I feel like you're risking so much in a Souls fight anyway, because you like anything you have on you, your souls and stuff, they're gone if you lose that boss fight. They're gone until you beat that boss fight. And that is that's a pretty punishing thing, I think, more so than most modern games.
It is, yeah.
I do think I really like the boss mechanics of Armored Core.
Oh yeah.
Where you could go back, change your entire build, and keep fighting the same boss.
Yeah.
No strings attached.
Yeah, Armored Core, I think, is the least punishing. Like,
For sure.
oh, you failed the boss fight. Like, it's literally just you fight him again, and you have the option to change things out right beforehand. Like,
That's
it's like,
true of Armored Core 6.
of
I think
Armored
that's
Core
the case
6,
of all
yes.
Armored Cores.
I thought you could lose money on the old ones. Like
You could.
Okay. But I mean, I've mentioned my beef. I like both agree and disagree with the Armored Core. Like it is extremely non-punishing and the boss fights are extremely fun. I do have that ludo narrative issue that I brought up in the Armored Core episode with them, but from a game design perspective, I totally agree that they're super fun. They're not punishing. They promote creativity.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, boss fights fall into one of two camps. One are they mechanically, even challenging maybe isn't the right word. Are they mechanically satisfying, right? Like, does it feel good to fight this boss and finally overcome this boss?
Like
And the second camp, well, we can't talk about that yet.
Talk about that, yeah. But it's so good for this episode.
It is. He's right. It's extremely good.
I'm
Such
sorry.
a good boss.
It's subversive. It's iconic. It's
Oh man, I hate this. I need to play that game. All right, and the second camp for me is the pure spectacle side. Because if a boss fight isn't hard at all and is just pure spectacle, like I can love that equally as much as a boss fight that's just like super hard but has no spectacle.
I would also shout out Devil May Cry, especially 5.
Oh
which
yeah, we had to talk about
the
Devil May
bosses
Cry 5 at some
are
point.
very hard the first time, in my opinion. I struggled with them, but when you come back to fight them, you're just stunting on them. So they like go from being a challenging exam to just spectacle by just the increase in your skill. Like your stats aren't
That's
high
pretty
or
cool.
anything. You just like when I went through New Game Plus, they couldn't get a hit. Like I had trouble getting a hit on them in New Game, and then New Game Plus, they had a very hard time getting a hit on me.
That's kind of how I felt about the Armored Core bosses. Like at first they were this challenge, and then later they became a spectacle of how fast I could dismantle their entire ideas as bosses. And that's what made New Game Plus fun. Like these bosses that caused me great pain, I just kind of stunt on.
Yeah, so that's definitely an appealing part too, but like I was more thinking of like the literal definition of spectacle. Like I'm thinking of like Poseidon from God of War 3. Like that to this day still might be the most like spectacle filled boss fight I've ever done. And that's like the intro to God of War 3. It really kind of set the tone for what kind of game that was, where it was just like over the top, you know, crazy nonstop high octane action, right? Like, and it wasn't hard. It was just really freaking cool to do, you know, like, and hey, if you want to incorporate some QTEs into that, fine by me. Just make it look really cool.
But that brings me to like, on the other end is like, Uncharted should have spectacle boss fights, but it doesn't really.
It doesn't have.
It
any
has
boss
the
fights.
worst.
I think
That's
Uncharted.
Not true. Uncharted does have boss fights, and they're the worst in the industry. Like,
You know what? That's
I was gonna
why
say,
I
I
don't remember them. They were all bad.
I was gonna say Uncharted 4's final boss was pretty memorable to me, but like
Yeah.
it was just a unique because it it introduced like a brand new mechanic. Like I guess spoilers for Uncharted 4, right?
it's an old game at this point.
Right,
It's
but like
6 years
you're
old.
having a sword fight on a burning pirate ship. Like that's pretty freaking cool.
They had it by then, but it's the older ones, like Uncharted 1 and 2 especially. I'm
Uncharted
thinking of.
1, you're just running around with a shotgun.
Oh,
like
it's-
even Uncharted 2, you're just like running around with a shotgun.
I think in
at
general,
the end.
shooters are like, with the exception of maybe Doom, but even then, I don't remember like loving the boss fights in Doom Eternal. I do not like boss fights in shooters because they just end up being bullet sponges.
I think Metal Gear Solid did it right, honestly.
Okay, I want to shout out Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid just has fantastic boss fights, like innumerable, fantastic boss fights. But I do want to shout out the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 because, like I said, 4 was the first Metal
That's
Gear
what I was
game I
thinking about.
played. Like when you're fighting Liquid Ocelot, and it's just like insanity. It like oscillates between. It like suddenly becomes a fighting game, and like
It starts off
Like,
with two people fighting each other, and then eventually it kind of degrades into just two old men kind of weakly throwing punches at each other.
I
Yeah,
am
the-
ashamed to
the-
say I've
the-
never been able to tolerate a Metal Gear Solid game long enough to get to a boss fight.
Metal Gear boss fights do hit different.
I've heard extremely good things, especially Psycho Mantis. And
Oh yeah, I mean, imagine at the time, right? Like Psycho Mantis, like reading your memory card and talking about like
yeah,
I don't know, Psychonauts
Other
or something.
Konami projects, yeah.
and the sniper
It wasn't just
guy
Konami
from-
projects, right?
No,
I thought it was
anything
like
on your
Konami.
memory card.
I think it was either Capcom or Konami. Hold on. Psycho Mantis
yeah.
we're
I
talking
thought it
about.
was whatever. Like they made dialogue for like basically most major games at the time
Yeah,
to be read off your memory card.
They might
Which
have.
that's a unique thing that can't really like. I guess they could like check your console's SSD nowadays
no,
or something. I
modern
don't know.
games do that. I've seen that. Like, I'm pretty sure from Steam you can get people's like recent play history and stuff.
Yeah.
The API
So,
is
yeah,
there
it's,
if you want to do it.
In the original PlayStation 1 game, it's Azure Dreams, Suikoden, Castlevania, and Vandal Hearts.
Okay, so it wasn't okay. It was only like
and in
4
the
games.
GameCube remake, it's Eternal. It's all GameCube games, so it's like Wind Waker, Super Mario Sunshine, and Melee.
Oh, that's funny that they actually updated it
They
for the
just
GameCube
updated it
re-release.
for the GameCube. That's a really fun idea. Like I miss the days where boss fights had gimmicks. Because Psycho Mantis had another gimmick where you had to plug in your controller in the
Yeah,
second slot to fight the boss. Because he turned off your first slot.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like where you have to like actually interact with your console to
Yeah.
progress the boss fight. Like Kojima just had those kind of out of the box thinking ideas for boss fights. Like I remember, and I actually haven't played Metal Gear 3, but I did hear that the sniper fight. Mike, do you know what I'm referring to?
I do.
Yeah,
I've heard
the
it's
end.
extremely
Yeah.
cool.
That he didn't end up doing this, but he originally planned for it to be like an actual sniper fight, like in real life, which means like it would take like weeks, like in real time, because you'd have to like set up, position, find him again, take a shot.
It wouldn't take
Like-
weeks in real time. No. What would happen is if you started the boss fight and then waited 2 weeks real time, he would die. Would just die of old age.
Oh, is that actually in the
That's
game?
in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Oh,
in
no
real
way.
Time, he will die of old age. Yeah. The
That's
boss
crazy.
is
No,
defeatable.
like I was reading his originally. He was gonna structure it like as close to a real life sniper fight as he could, and that would mean like actually putting in like days of playtime or something ridiculous like that. Obviously, that's not feasible in a video game, so he didn't do it. But they actually got pretty far along, like planning that out, which is wild to me.
So one of my favorite boss fights, and this has become a trope, I think, in modern platformers since then, but in I think it was New Super Mario Bros. Wii, you get past Bowser, and then the final boss is a giant Bowser chasing you through a very difficult level. And I just really love when platformers do that. That's a trope I'm a big fan of, because I think boss fights tend to be like terrible in most platformers, Castlevania being an exception. But like in Mario and Rayman, I think Rayman also did this. It's just super neat to like have a big spectacle level be your boss fight, because it just makes more sense for the game.
No, yeah, that makes more sense in a platformer. But I also want to shout out the multi-stage boss fights. I love that kind of stuff, man. Like, first thing that comes to mind, Twilight Princess, Ganondorf.
Yeah.
That stuff hit different. Like, I was so just blown away by that at the time. Like, it just genuinely felt epic. Like, you went through, like, 1v1ing him to being turning into your wolf form to fighting him on horseback to, like, 1v1ing him again. Like, it was great.
A little longer,
I know
maybe.
you guys probably want to say something about Tears of the Kingdom
Connor,
right now.
I really want to talk about it.
You can't talk about it.
I can't. Oh, I'm just going to say it's better than Twilight Princesses.
Well, that's not the highest bar.
I mean, that's
Twilight
a pretty,
Princess was
for
the
Zelda,
best
that's a
canon
pretty
fight,
darn high bar. Like...
I mean, Twilight Princess is good, but it's extremely derivative of Ocarina of Time in the boss fights and the whole game. Like,
I mean,
it is, but I think it did the final boss fight way better than Ocarina of Time.
Good. It did Ganon real good, that game.
Yeah.
But, what's on that? I absolutely abhor, quick time event final boss fights.
Yeah, I don't like them either.
Yeah, maybe not like final boss fights, but like my argument is if a game isn't trying to challenge you and it just leans into the other side, which is like spectacle, I'm into it. Like God of War 3 again, like Zeus, the final boss fight there, it was like a 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 stage boss fight where you went from like you fighting him like 1v1 to like in like some sort of like spiritual realm fighting him off there. It was just like, when games just like go all out like that, like I'm into it.
Can I spoil the true ending boss of Armored Core? Can I do that? Does anyone care?
I'm okay with that.
I
Connor?
don't care.
Okay. So the true ending boss fight, you're fighting All Mind, right? And for its second stage, the second phase of the spider boss where it starts flying?
Yeah.
You're fighting 2 of those as well.
Oh no, 2 of those at once?
At that point, they're like pushovers, and you just have to do enough damage to the boss so it kills them. But they're threats.
Yeah.
It was an insane boss fight.
Yeah.
Mainly because it would just pull things out that I didn't expect it to pull out. And even running double Zimmermans, I couldn't take it out.
Wow.
I think I went to Gatlings and stun needles.
On the topic of quick time event boss fights, Ahmed, have you played Uncharted Golden Abyss?
No, I have barely played it. I played like the intro of it.
I actually like that game, but at least for what it is, like it's not.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. It has one of the worst final boss fights of any video game I've ever played. It is all quick time events, but they're all touch screen based quick time events that are like.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Kind of easy to get wrong.
See, that's the thing. Like, if you want to sprinkle in QuickTime events, fine, but your boss fight can't all be QuickTime events.
That's all it is. It's like a knife fight in a burning building, and it's all QuickTime event.
You know what game always nails their final boss fights? It's gonna sound outrageous, but Ace Combat. Every Ace Combat game I played has
I believe it.
Such an insane final boss.
It's all about combat, so I would. Of course, they have to.
Like, it's still a plane. Right? Like, sometimes it's a plane, sometimes it's 2 planes, sometimes it's a satellite. Like,
a satellite.
It's insane.
That's crazy, man.
You know who does, in a similar vein, who doesn't nail their final boss fights is Star Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
my gosh.
Always just Andros, and it's always the same.
Dude, you know what made me so mad? Because like, I'm an unironic Star Fox Adventures apologist, right?
Yeah, and they have the good fight with the lizard guy, but then they have to make you fight Andros after that.
Dude, like the whole, like, obviously there were some space sections in the game, but they were very much like a side minigame type thing, right?
Yeah.
And the majority of the game, it's actually kind of like a Zelda, like you're like progressing through this dinosaur planet, completing dungeons, gaining new powers, fighting bosses there.
Dinosaur Planet,
which is cool.
Maybe they should have called it that.
Right, yeah. But like the final boss fight, you're hopping into your R-Wing, which doesn't incorporate like any of the upgrades you've gotten at all throughout the entire playtime of this game. And it's just like an R-Wing boss fight. I was just like...
And it's lifted
okay.
straight out of Star Fox 64, I'm pretty sure. Because that's like... I'm pretty sure there's only really ever been one Andross fight. And it's the one from Star Fox and Star Fox 64. And...
I don't know, man.
It's because it's just the floating head, right? Like
Star Fox has been like dormant for a while, right? It hasn't really done anything.
It had a Wii U game.
Yeah, I think the Wii U game was so bad that the series kind of died.
Well, I don't think anything's ever really dead in Nintendo world. Like, I'm sure it'll come back one day.
Yeah, we'll get our Star Fox 99.
What about F-Zero?
We just got F-Zero 99.
F-Zero just came back.
Yeah, but that's not like an F-Zero. It's an F-Zero game, but it's not a true sequel. It's just the original F-Zero, but with 99 people.
Yeah, but did you even think you were going to get that? Like, the fact that they remembered F-Zero after all these years.
Also, there were F-Zero tracks in Mario Kart and an F-Zero game on Nintendo Land for the Wii U. So, like, it's obviously not gone. They just,
Yeah. No, Nintendo's, like, from what I've seen, Nintendo's willing to just, like, leave things for 10, 20 years,
yeah.
Yeah, if it's not one of their star franchises, I mean, that's a symptom of kind of the AAA sphere, is if it's not a star franchise, you kind of shelve it until there's enough nostalgia driving it.
You guys haven't played Pikmin, have you?
I'm currently playing Pikmin 4.
Also insanely good boss fights. Pikmin 4,
really?
Not as much as Pikmin 1 and 2, I would say. But pretty cool boss fights in Pikmin, yeah. 4 has some good ones, to be clear. It's just they're mostly post-game, like post-credits.
Yeah.
Pikmin buries the lead, pretty much. In Pikmin 2 and 4, they bury the lead pretty hard.
Yeah, oh, man. Yeah, I think, like, I resign myself to just playing Pikmin 4 and then maybe going back after that, but I'm definitely playing Pikmin 4 first.
I think that's the right way to do it. If if you're not dying to see the full franchise like I was.
Yeah.
Pikmin 4 is a great way to do it.
Okay, so I have to shout out Millennia, of course.
Still haven't
and Radon.
Yeah, Radon's good. I still haven't fought Millennia. I never got around to it.
That's crazy, man.
I mean,
maybe when the DLC comes out.
I only fought her like twice, and I gave up.
I will say,
it took a lot more than 2 tries.
Bethesda games never have had really convincing final bosses either.
Well, no. I don't even remember any.
Good combat, so like pretty much ever. I mean, Starfield's is probably their best ever, in my opinion, and it's still not like. Well, okay, the finale of Starfield, they were actually like, it felt a little cool. It was good.
I feel like Bethesda needed to lean more into spectacle to kind of get through, because the end of the Alduin fight in Skyrim. It was just disappointing.
Oh, yeah.
You're just fighting another dragon, and you've been fighting 100 of them through the games. This one just has a name and can talk to you.
Yeah, no, the first dragon is the coolest dragon you fight in Skyrim, and it's because it's the first.
Like, Skyrim kind of falls apart once you get Dragon Rend, because all dragons kind of become trivial.
No, and that's just a problem with a lot of boss fights. I actually, I think Megaman does boss fights really well. I don't know how popular an opinion this is, but I actually like the boss rush at the end of Mega Man games. I don't think any other game can really get away with it, but where Mega Man has like the element, like it has super effective weapons and stuff, it's really fun.
Right, because you spent the whole game like getting the counter weapons for each boss, basically, right?
I liked it in Shovel Knight too, largely because Shovel Knight was riffing on Mega Man. So
yeah, I mean,
also shoutouts to Hollow Knight. I wanted to say,
oh, yeah.
Have you ever fought the Radiant? Like the super souped up one on steroids?
Like you have to do all of Godholm to get to it?
Whatever the crazy like last boss is.
No, I haven't.
I think it's that one.
I can't finish Godholm. Let's
go.
Yeah,
like I will fully admit that is a level of difficulty that is just too much for me. Like,
so it is your white
I'm
whale.
Not. What's that?
It's your white
I
whale.
guess so. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the other boss fights, the ones intended for like sane people in that game, very good,
very fun. Not crazy hard in retrospect to me, but that may just be because like Hollow Knight is one of those games that is like riding a bike. Like once you get good at it, like
yeah.
Once you master like pogo jumping and stuff, that game becomes much easier.
And I think it's also definitive to like think when someone's designing a final boss, you need to make the final boss quite accessible to beat and not like impossible. You want people to win the game. You save the impossible boss for an optional boss after the game's over.
Dude, Metroid Dread.
I think I agree with that.
Should have got that memo. The Metroid Dread final boss is very hard.
Like Final Fantasy,
man,
will give
I don't
you,
even
like,
remember
this kind of easier boss fight. Like it's a final boss, but it's not like the definitive final boss. And then it'll be, hey, here's a boss that you're gonna have to grind for 3 hours for. Have fun.
Well, I mean, that's like a JRPG classic, right? Like, here's the final boss. Oh, but wait, here's the actual secret final boss.
Here's the secret
and then,
boss
like,
that's gonna make you hate your life because it's gonna take you 3 hours to beat.
And then here's the ultra super duper hidden boss that you can only beat like after you completed the whole game once and you've done these certain conditions and all that kind of stuff.
They get you in Dragon Quest XI where they like the final boss shows up like the final boss, like post game final boss shows up long before, like you're able to go challenge him long before you would ever stand a chance against him. And they like add quests all over the world so you can like grind to your level, like grind to however strong you want to be to fight the final boss to like choose your difficulty kind of. I think it's really cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. Dragon Quest XI is like a masterclass in JRPG.
Yeah, I gotta play it one of these days,
like,
man.
In the same way, but also kind of the opposite way of Persona 5, where Persona 5 is all about flow and like no grinding at all, really. Dragon Quest is like, yeah, there's grinding, but we do such a good job with it that it's really not annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, well, I don't want to spoil it because you're probably going to play it someday, but let's just say it's very Akira Toriyama.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
It's
like Frieza pops up or something. Like
basically
becomes like a galactic game all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Galactic level threat.
Yeah.
Aliens all of a sudden. Yeah. That's probably it, right? Like, was I on the money?
Yes, but it's perfect Cell.
Yeah. Okay.
It's indistinguishable. Like, it is literally Cell. Like, it looks exactly like him.
Yeah, that's...
You know what? I forgot about a game that really disappointed me with their final bosses.
Oh, yeah?
All three... Well, Mass Effect 3. The first two games had okay final bosses, but Mass Effect 3 didn't have a final boss.
Dude, shooter RPGs, man. They're just...
The final boss was the decision you had to make at the end, which color light to walk into.
Woof.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
It's fine. They're good games. They're all good games because they're not Andromeda.
The thing about Mass Effect is, like, I can forgive the ending because the journey up to that point was so good.
Yeah, I didn't care much for the ending, but it was like it wasn't like the knee-jerk reaction everyone at the time had. Like, it was fine.
And also, just to counter your point about first-person shooters not having good boss fights, I do want to mention, even though they are a little bullet spongy, the raid bosses in Destiny were great boss fights that incorporated tons of like different mechanics.
Any boss fights in Deep Rock Galactic, like,
I don't know. Deep Rock Galactic, I don't like running out of ammo during a boss fight, and that seemed to happen to me a lot in Deep Rock.
You run out of ammo a lot in Deep Rock, but that's kind of part of the mechanics.
Yeah. And I don't know, a lot of, like, Deep Rock Galactic, you could get into, like, a losing state that was very hard to get out of, where, like, I would play in a team of 3, and, like, 2 of us would be knocked out, 1 of us would get the other 2 back up, we'd have barely any ammo, we'd fight for a bit, and then 2 of us would get knocked out again, because there was no way to recover any...
I think that was probably Deep Rock at its most chaotic and fun, though, is when you're desperately trying to finish the mission and not lose out.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we should have just lost.
Yeah. Prolonging the inevitable is fun, sometimes.
Sometimes.
I also do love a good, like, team fight against a boss. Where, like, you actually have to, like, I guess my mind's still stuck in Destiny world, but, like, for raid bosses, like, unless you're, like a freak, basically, you have the best gear and you're, like, just, like, godly good at the game, you cannot kill these bosses solo. For some, it's, like, actually impossible, because there's mechanics that involve, like, teamwork.
And you've not gotten into a Monster Hunter game, right, Ahmed?
No.
That's wild to me, because that is the entire game. It is just 4-player boss fights.
I Honestly, I do think I would like Monster Hunter. For some reason, the one I played just like didn't click with me.
Which one did you play?
World.
See, I love World.
What's the new one?
Rise.
Rise, yeah.
And Rise
Rise is really good.
It's good, but so is World. Like, if you didn't like World, I don't know that there's anything about Rise that's gonna make it click. It's just one of those.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I played I played the demo when you came over to check out the demo. Like, that's like all I've played. I haven't really done
you
anything.
Didn't play the game then. Yeah, the demo was
no,
actually.
I haven't done anything.
It was not representative of the game because Monster Hunter, it's about boss fights, but it's about grinding boss fights. It's about like kind of like the fights. I mean, some of the later fights are very hard, but they're not typically as hard as a Souls level fight. But it's kind of about getting a Dark Souls level mastery of a fight that's not as hard as a Dark Souls. Like, you kind of stunt on these monsters and stuff, and you can learn to kill them very quickly, or capture them, or whatever you're going to do. And then you use their body parts to make armor for yourself and get stronger. Yeah. And then you go fight bigger, stronger monsters. And it's just that over and over again.
No, like,
it's
on paper,
really
that does sound like something I would be pretty into.
I've never gotten to play a Monster Hunter game consistently with friends either. I've always been solo playing through it or playing with strangers, which is just not really the right way to play those games.
Maybe, like, I could play Rise with you or something, just to try it out.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously not anytime soon, because, like, this year is, like, crazy, but...
I reckon next year is not going to be as crazy.
Next year, when there's a bit of a drought, we can check out Rise together.
Yeah, I would start over in Rise happily. I've never played the DLC of a Monster Hunter either, because it's one of those things, like, I keep expecting maybe my friends will hop into it, and they never do. It's such a good series. And, like, Cuphead also is like that, where it's the whole game is the boss fights, basically.
Yeah,
I think those are neat. There's a few others like that I'm not remembering off. Oh, what is it? Katana Zero? Is that all boss fights?
No, it's Fury.
Fury
is all boss fights. Thank you. Sorry, there's a few. That's like an aesthetic, and I get them all confused. But
it is, and it is. Yeah,
yeah. Fury's really cool too. Like, I haven't played it. I watched a friend play it. So it looks fun. I can say that. Like, the boss
I played a bit of it. It was very cool.
They look unreal.
I do want to shout out, I guess, the surprise or the unexpected boss fight. Like, when you're playing the game and a boss fight drops that you weren't, I guess, expecting.
Like when the Asylum Demon drops in
well, that's a really good example. Yeah. There's another fantastic example in The Last of Us Part 2, which I know neither of you have played, but if you know, you know.
It was a boss fight?
Yes. And it's not tough mechanically, it's tough, like, emotionally, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, shout outs to that. But yeah, the Asylum Demon, that was another classic of, like, as soon as that happened, I was just like, oh, like, that was basically the moment I was, like, hooked onto Dark Souls.
Early moment to get hooked, yeah.
Yeah, like, this boss fight just drops on my head when I'm, like, basically naked and have nothing on me, and I was just like, oh, this game is going to subvert my expectations, and it did.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, like, ever since, you know, like, all things being equal, like, the Souls sort of, you know, the FromSoft franchises have my favorite boss fights. Like I mentioned, Ishin, Melania, and Radon were classics. Like, in terms of, like, mechanics and, you know, difficult obstacles to overcome, I don't think anyone does it better than FromSoft.
I have no idea what I would call my favorite boss fights. Like, I guess my first guess would be either FromSoft games or Hollow Knight, I think. I don't think I'm a big boss fight guy.
Yeah, I think I am, and like I said, I fall into two camps, right? Because those are the mechanical boss fights that I loved, but, like, the spectacle ones, like, Mike, come on, Metal Gear 4's finale, like,
yeah, spectacle boss
that
fights
was
are
unforgettable.
enjoyable.
Boss fights that, like, make the story and, like, basically they combine story and spectacle and culminate into, like, one huge moment. Like, those boss fights are equally as worth remembering, I think, as the boss fights that you overcome after, like, much difficulty.
Yeah. I'm a big spectacle fan. I just don't...
Yeah.
I love me an Uncharted. I will... In a year when I get to play it, I'm going to love the spectacle of Spider-Man 2. I
Oh
imagine.
man. So not to get
I will be
too
playing it for
far
a
down
while.
Spider-Man 2 again, but I made the mistake of like I watched like one part of one review. And they were like, yeah, this is all footage from the first 5 minutes of the game. And I watched it and I was like, are you freaking kidding me, man?
You shouldn't have
like,
watched that. Yeah.
this is the first 5 minutes of the game? Like, this could be like, this has the spectacle of like a final boss in like another video game.
Well, okay, but so does the opening of Forza Horizon 5.
It so does. You're
Forza
so right.
Horizon 5,
Yeah.
they front load all of the spectacle of the game in the first 5 minutes and then never touch it again.
Dude, I
was
cannot tell
so
you
excited for
how
that
many
game.
times I've played the first 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
I literally, like, afterwards, I found out, like, you couldn't delete your save file easily, like you can on PlayStation. So I, like, Googled how to, like, delete it from the cloud on Xbox, just so I could, like, do it again.
Yeah.
Like,
What a tease. Oh my god. I love
but
the
I'm
opening to that
pretty
game.
sure Spider-Man will be full of
Yeah, me too.
set pieces, but, like,
I just thought of that.
I just could not believe. I was like, all right, I'll check this out. And I saw some of the most, like, balls to the wall, insane stuff. And I was just like, what? Like, this is the first boss? But yeah, I feel like I'm leaving a lot of things out because I feel like most of the bosses I discussed were relatively recent. Like, I'm trying to reach backwards now. Like, I remember, and it's hard, right? Because, like, the younger you are, like, harder to remember those things. But, like, I remember the final boss of both Paper Mario and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door left a huge impression on me.
Dude.
Especially Thousand Year Door. Like, that was a hard boss.
The final boss of Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, I have no idea if it's actually hard, but my little kid brain could not beat that boss.
Yeah.
It took me forever. It's just such a huge difficulty spike at
and
the end of that game.
Mario RPG Remake's also coming out this year.
Yeah,
Which is
and super,
probably...
is it already out, the Thousand Year Door remake?
No, that's next year, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it might be next year.
I've been seeing a lot of footage of that game, and I didn't know if it was people playing it on Switch or not.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, like, between Mario RPG and Spider-Man,
The spectacle.
gonna get some more really good boss fights.
Final Fantasy 15's boss fights. I can't believe.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
bring
that's
those up
the
at
other thing,
spectacle.
like-
those go hard.
Yeah, and, like, especially Final Fantasy, I know none of us have played it, but 16 was built around those boss fights, like those kaiju
Yeah.
boss fight things.
I also
Like,
think
I'm-
like a really cool boss fight like that is the best way to do like fan service. There's like
Oh, yeah.
the like halfway through Final Fantasy 15, you fight like the iconic tree guy from Final Fantasy. Like he's been in a bunch of different ones, and what a good fight.
The Cactuar?
Maybe.
He's
No,
the cactus dude?
Not a cactus. It's like a big tree with like one eye and like an open mouth.
Yeah,
I don't
Sounds
know.
like a Kirby villain.
It looks like a Kirby villain. I remember fighting in it. It's an early boss fight in Crystal Chronicles, and it comes back in Final Fantasy 16. So maybe it was like very targeted fan service at me, the person who'd only played Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Mike, you play Ghost of Tsushima?
No, I never played Ghost of Tsushima.
I thought maybe you said you did. I do want to shout out the last boss in Ghost of Tsushima. That was it was both difficult and a spectacle. Like the scenery was just gorgeous, like drop dead gorgeous. It was like ripped straight out of like a samurai movie. So shout out to that one. Man, I don't want to forget things that I know after the show. I'll be like, darn, I forgot. Like this really cool. Oh, Metal Gear Rising. Like, are you kidding me?
All of it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Probably
about
the
Metal Gear
most
Rising.
most spectacle in a boss fight like ever. You're just like cutting giant robots in half with like a katana. Like,
I mean, it falls right in there with. I mean, it's a very similar game to like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
oh, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
man, I really need to get around to playing those games.
yeah,
I would
you do.
love those games. I just know I would
You
love
could
those
totally
games.
start with Devil May Cry 5.
I think I might. You know, it's like I need to just get over it. Like I missed the train. I just need to get over it. You know, like I'm not gonna play Pikmin's 1 through 3.
I mean,
I'm not gonna play Devil May Cry 1 through 4. You know, like
Devil May Cry 3 and 5 are like the must-play ones in my opinion, and it's mostly 5. 5 is like by a lot the best one.
But the only thing with 5 that like tripped me up was that like people were like, yeah, like if you played the original ones, like some of the boss fights hit like so much harder or whatever.
That's true.
I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, but
then
you can't win them all.
That can go, like, people say that, but that can go in reverse. Like, if you love Devil May Cry 5 and you go back and play, and like you get to be like, oh, that's where this guy came from. Like,
yeah,
that people act like that can't go both ways, and it totally can.
I remember I did put like maybe a couple hours into 1, and I was just like,
no,
this is fine.
Yeah,
like, it's not.
1 is cool historically, but it doesn't like.
Doesn't hold up.
It also, well, I think it does hold up. Like, I liked it when I played it. 2 is unplayable. 2 is a mess, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But Devil May Cry 1 is interesting, especially if you go into it knowing it was originally a Resident Evil spinoff. Like,
right.
That makes a lot of it suddenly make sense. I like Devil May Cry 1. But 3 is definitely where the series gets its identity, like, for sure. And then 4 is fun, but really annoying because you have to play every level twice. And then 5 is just excellent. 5 is like nothing, nonstop octane into your veins the entire time you're playing it. And I love it.
Yeah.
And then like all the Bayonettas are good too.
Yeah.
3, probably the worst one, but...
I did get a decent amount into 1 as well, Bayonetta 1.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I just, got sidetracked by other stuff. But I did want to also shout out, before I forget, Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus is all big spectacle bosses as well.
It's all, the whole game is just traversal and boss fights. That's it. And
God, Nier Automata's like that too.
It does both those things very, very well. On a multitude of levels. Both the spectacle and like the emotional like heft of what you're doing. They just nail it.
So
it's like one of those games where like I don't know if I'll ever play Shadow of the Colossus again. Like I played it once and I was just like, that was my time with that game, and I don't know if I have it in me to play it again.
Yeah, I still haven't played it.
Nier Automata, yeah, that's another one I just
Nier
have to play.
Nier is also like they both have the big, like, not all of the boss fights are super emotional, especially your first playthrough. But it's a multiple ending kind of game, and like the later ones are definitely pretty emotional, and they're huge spectacle fights. But they're also, as Platinum, doing the combat in Nier Automata, so like they're also Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, like level of combo and cool. Like you're part of the spectacle. It's not just happening to you; you are contributing in a big way.
Yeah,
I love that. I'm also, the final bosses of roguelikes tend to be, like, super fun. Like...
Oh, yeah.
Just
like,
in general, like Hades.
Super fun and, like, generally pretty difficult as well.
Not always... Like, Olmec is not a super satisfying conclusion to Spelunky, I would argue.
Dude, man, like, the final boss of Slay the Spire, like...
Oh, yeah.
Man... I can't tell you how many times I got to him and just got, like, washed.
Oh my God.
I was just like, well, the boss, that's like a run down the drain,
What's that? I always forget what the game's called. The creepy card game from a couple years ago.
Inscription.
Yeah. All the boss fights in that game are excellent.
Yeah, those are all great.
That was like my game of the year
Inscription
that
too.
year, I think. Yeah, I love Inscription.
Oh man, it's just so front loaded, that game though. Like the beginning part is so good.
I agree and disagree. They did front load it ambiance wise for sure. The rest of the game never lives up.
I enjoyed the second part too, and I'm in like the final part now,
the
and
final
it's like
part is the most boring part of the game for sure.
It's that's kind of where I stopped playing it. But
it's aesthetically
so good.
lacking in a pretty big way.
Yeah,
I think the middle part of the game. Well, did you see that they released Casey's mod, which is like just a real roguelike version of the game?
You mentioned that before to me. Yeah,
I never played it, but I hear it's extremely good. But then there's also just like. I wish the middle part of the game was more of the game, even though it was like super easy to get like way overpowered and stuff. I loved that.
Yeah. No, that was a fun chunk of the game for sure. All right, I am failing to come up with more examples. So, do you guys have any other boss fights you want to shout out?
Not really.
No, I'm ready to talk games we've been playing.
What have you been playing, Connor?
I've been playing, I shouted it out on our Discord, so any of the real fans already know about this, but I've been playing a game called Cocoon, and by been playing, it's like a 4-hour game probably. It wasn't terribly long.
I've heard good things about Cocoon.
It's extremely good. The premise is difficult to say. It's a very puzzly puzzle game, but like a puzzle adventure kind of game. There's no, well, I can't even say there's no combat because there are boss fights in it, weirdly, but they're not terribly hard, and like it's kind of a you get hit once you die. You don't have a health bar, and you have to hit them 3 or 4 times and they die. They're more puzzles than anything else. But it's super fun. It's a game mostly about these orbs, and there are like these pools you can drop the orb in, and when you drop the orb in the pool, you can like jump into the orb, and there's a whole world in there. But then,
oh wow,
sometimes you have to carry an orb into another orb, and then now you can carry both of those at once because there are also like platforms around the world where you can jump back out. So it's really a brain twisty kind of game. You get up to like, you start with just your one orb. So you have the world that it's a red orb. So you have the red orb world, and then you have outside of the red orb world. And then you work through it a while and you find a green orb. And now you have the green orb world, the red orb world, and the world outside of both of those. And you kind of work your way up. There's more orbs you get. It's extremely interesting. It's weird. Like, there's also like exceptions. Like there was one point where I had the green orb in the green orb world, which was very confusing. Like how I managed to get it in there and everything. And that was intentional. And I had to solve puzzles that way. It's just, it takes that like kind of simple mechanic. It's also a really satisfying transition between the world. There's no load screens or anything, obviously, because that would break everything. It's a really cool, kind of zen, kind of like, I don't know. I kept wanting it to be like Tunic or something and have like a deeper layer, but it really doesn't. It's really surface level, and I think none of the puzzles are terribly difficult, or at least I didn't struggle with them. It has extremely good flow. It was a really good game to just sit down on like a Saturday afternoon. It was raining outside, and just sit down, and it's a game you can beat in one sitting if you really want to.
Yeah, this sounds really interesting. Like, it sounds very high concept just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think it has like something crazy deep to say or something, but it is like weird, right? Like taking these worlds into each other. It's like
someone came up with that, like...
Yeah, and like, I can't imagine designing these puzzles. I think that had to be like very difficult to do, because there are ones like, you get to a point where like, you have to be making something happen in a world you're not in. Like, and sometimes that goes several layers deep. Like, I had the green orb in the red orb, and I'm not in either of those, and I have to like shoot something into the red orb, knowing how it's going to behave after it goes through, such that it will hit the green orb, and knowing what'll happen once it hits the green orb so that it hits the right thing in that world. So like you have these like crazy degrees of separation and stuff. It never like, I never got stuck for more than like a minute or two on any of the puzzles, but it did make my brain hurt a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's making my brain hurt just hearing you describe it.
It was flexing those muscles. I really liked it. I would highly recommend it if you like a puzzle game. And it's on Game Pass, so.
Nice.
Perfect Game Pass game. Like, something I never would have bought, I don't think, but like, just because it was available to me already, like, played through it, very short, extremely fun.
Mike, how about you?
I guess I could talk about the new Forza game.
Yeah,
it's a racing game. Not much to talk about, like sim racing games. They're just racing games,
Are you into sim racing?
This
games?
One's motorsport, right?
Yeah, it's Forza Motorsport. It's I don't know. I got nothing. I haven't really played that many games this week. I've been busy.
That's how I felt about Forza Horizon, though, where it was just like kind of neat, like very pretty, kind of neat to play. Yeah,
it's neat. To play. I mean, like, it's just
okay. So can someone?
Exciting.
What's the difference between Horizon and Motorsport? Like, Motorsport is just strictly racing, right?
Yeah, it's track racing. Yeah. It's not
Motorsport's all track racing, and it's more simulation based. Like, Horizon's more arcadey.
Gotcha. Okay.
I didn't actually know that the simulation was different. I just knew Horizon is like this big.
It definitely feels different.
Okay.
So
I've been thinking about checking it out just because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass, so it's like I also like picked it up.
Put your graphics card through its paces for sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very pretty looking game, but it's a sim racing game. There's not much I could go wild about it other than the car leveling system.
What's that?
Instead of buying upgrades with credits like the old games, you just level up your car, and that's how you get upgrades for your car.
Oh, interesting. That feels like less. I don't know. Like that feels like that's less user involved.
That feels old school.
Yeah.
I mean, you still level up your car by using it. So as you drive and like drive well, you get more levels in your car.
Yeah.
It just saves money. They reduce the credit payouts.
Okay.
So instead of using credits to buy car upgrades, you're just buying straight cars with it.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know how much I can comment on that without playing it. It feels like a simplification.
It's a simplification, but I think it ended up simplifying out like a lot of the grinding that Forza had.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't have much to say about these games. Yeah. Like, I think they look pretty, but like, they're definitely not made.
I like making fun of Xbox
for my taste.
Yeah, I like making fun of Xbox for having a car on the stage every year.
Yeah, that's always funny.
Yeah, wow. That
other than that, I installed 2.5K mods in Skyrim.
That's like
that's you're saying you installed 2,500 mods?
2,500 mods, yeah. It's my Skyrim folder is now 316 gigabytes.
I was gonna say, how much RAM does that take?
Not a lot, actually. It doesn't eat as much RAM as you'd expect, and it runs pretty well for being modded to, the ends of the earth. It works pretty fine.
How big is Skyrim without mods?
Like 20 gigabytes. Yeah, like 20 gigs.
So you've like...
It's basically a different game at this point.
It is. Everything's different. It was a big Nexus collection, so I'm still discovering new mods in it.
You've made it 15 times bigger. That's wild.
Yeah, I've made it 15 times the size. It's a whole different game.
Yeah, it would have to be. That's crazy.
That kind of sounds like fun, honestly. I might dabble with that now that I actually have like a PC.
I don't even know if my Skyrim launches right now because I did a sloppy job of modding it many years ago.
Yeah, I used a Nexus collection, which is probably the optimal way. Honestly, it's the optimal way to get large quantities of mods, is just to let someone else do the hard work for you.
Just like Minecraft, yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, if you're sitting there modding individual mods out, there's some joy in that, but I'm gonna tell you, you're not gonna want to play the game after you spend 3 hours modding it.
Yep. For sure.
It never works that way.
Yeah, you finally get it to launch, you sigh a breath of relief, and you go to bed.
Yeah, and then you never play the game.
Yeah. I've done it 5 times probably, maybe more.
That was my relationship with like Starfield for the longest time. I just like try and tweak it.
Yeah.
And then like install some mod to like have like 2 more frames per second or some nonsense.
Yeah. That's what it is.
All right. Either of you got anything else?
Nope.
All right. So I actually don't have anything this week that I want to talk about. I'm just sort of been dipping my toe in a bunch of games, but mostly I am just anticipating Spider-Man at this point. Again, like I was not. I don't want to say I wasn't looking forward to this game because like I was looking forward to it, but like I wasn't like hyped about it or anything. Until like basically just yesterday when like, or the day before yesterday, whenever the reviews and like everything dropped for it, and like the consensus seems to be that this is like a really special game. So I don't know, it got me. Like I hadn't even pre-ordered it yet, but I have now, and it's like loaded onto my PS5 ready to go on launch. So very much looking forward to Spider-Man 2 in a week. Actually, by the time this episode comes out, it'll probably already be out. But
I'm like weirdly curious about what Digital Foundry is going to do with that game once the PC version comes out. Like, because
they'll do all the comparisons. Yeah. They're always pretty thorough about that.
Because it's got to have direct storage, right? Or there's no way that fast travel is going to work on PC.
Yeah, I think it was like I don't know. It must have been some sort of bespoke thing with their the PS5's SSDs, APIs, and stuff.
I mean, I imagine
they
that's
use.
part of it. Part of it is also that like that environment has a lot of reused assets, so like they're not having to load in from scratch. Probably when you change scenes, which is probably also true. Like we were in our Discord talking about how GTA 5 did a similar trick, much slower 10 years ago, and the same thing where it's not loading in all original assets, but it's still like insanely
It's
impressive.
still it's fast to the point of like
It's
there's some
unbelievable.
black magic
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like what we're referring to, because we just sort of went into it, the load times in this game are actually non-existent. Like you load into an area and it just zooms into Spider-Man swinging there, and
And you can fast
you
travel.
kind of have to see it to believe it.
Any point in the city. Yeah, I would, even if you're not going to play this game, I would look up a video of the fast travel because it's just ludicrous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
it's
I mean,
just
and
that good.
if this is a harbinger of things to come, like it's kind of crazy that we've sort of defeated loading times.
Yeah.
So,
It's weird because it does feel like it feels late. Like this was a promise of the PS5, and it feels like it's coming late in the life cycle.
it is. I mean, most things end up that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, PS4 was supposed to be a 4K machine. Like, we know that's not true. You know, like
Yeah. No, I feel like the
PS5
PS5
claims it's an 8K machine, and that's just a lie. You know,
insanity. I was about to say that I feel like the PS5 is making good on its promises, if a little bit late, but calling it an 8K machine is like laughable.
it has like 8K support slapped on it, which I guess technically is true. If you like have an HDMI 2.1 cable,
Who even
it can
has
do
an
like
8K
8K 30 frames per second, but like nothing supports that.
Who has
except
an 8K
for
TV?
like the Forager. No one.
I've never seen an 8K TV. Like
I've seen them at like Best Buy,
what
but
do they
like that's
cost?
it.
$5,000.
They cost a lot of dollars.
Yeah, like I'll be honest. If pressed,
I have no interest in an 8K TV.
I can
None.
see the difference between 1080p and 4K. I don't know if I could point out the difference between 1440 and 4K. I don't know for certain that I could.
Yeah, 1440. I have learned this as well. Like once I'm 1440 and up, I'm just good.
I'm very
like I don't need
comfortable,
more
yeah.
resolution than that.
Yeah. Now, if we're doing like some fancy upscaling stuff to go from 1440 to 4K, happy, very happy with
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just
But yeah, I do feel like 1080p for me is I can see its kind of softness now. But like anything 1440 and up, I'm just like I'll never
obviously
complain
all
about
of
the
that
resolution.
depends on display size.
Oh
obviously.
right, yeah, for sure.
And distance, but
Like games on my Switch handheld in 720p look fantastic.
yeah, same with my Steam Deck. Yeah, at 800p, like I'm happy with that. But calling it an 8K machine, that's just bold. Are they even like? Can you even watch a movie in 8K? Like, is there anywhere you can get that?
I feel like you'd have to like load it into like a flash drive or something. You know, like you'd have to load it into your own storage and then play it. But I don't even know if it can play 8K movies. Like maybe it can. Like maybe we should ask like 2 people who have done it in the entire world. I don't know.
Like my PC, I could probably run an N64 game in 8K or something. Like just for funsies.
Yeah.
But why would I?
I don't know. Like I hope there isn't a tunnel vision on resolution because that's not like we've kind of just beaten resolution.
It.
You know, like
no, there's no
like
outside
path
of
tracing,
virtual
ray
reality.
tracing. That's the sort of future of like improved graphics, quote unquote. So
yeah, no, if that's the future of chasing stupid numbers. Yeah,
yeah.
Because I still,
for now at least
it is. I ray tracing is neat, totally irrelevant to making a good game, and
absolutely,
arguably like not nearly as relevant as they want you to think it is to making a pretty game. We got pretty good at faking all that stuff. Like,
oh yeah, like I mean, that's another thing too. Spider-Man 2. I mean, like that PS5 isn't very powerful, but the ray traced reflections it's putting out, the way Insomniac implemented those, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be painful waiting for the PC release on that.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it next episode.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about Mario Wonder. I'm like weirdly excited for that game now. It it's kind of like a dark horse game of the year contender, I think. Like,
it could be, yeah. Like, I think reviews for it drop tomorrow too, so that'll be cool to see.
I think the full game's already leaked. Like, you can download it.
Oh yeah,
That keeps happening to Nintendo, which
that's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of hate, because I find it very difficult. Like, I'm not somebody who condones piracy, really, especially for video games. I mean, yeah, in general, I don't like it. But it is very difficult to, like, fight the temptation. Like, the full, complete game is just there, and I could play it a week early and then just buy it when it comes out. But I would probably be getting a worse experience.
I had a dream last night that I was playing Super Mario Wonder, which I don't know why I did.
That's a strange.
Right? Because, like, Spider-Man's the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Say, you're probably not going to play Wonder in the near
I mean,
future,
I don't
right?
know. Like, I think if the reviews drop and everyone's just like, it's so, like, incredible and, like, it's unskippable, then I'll feel, I don't know, I'll probably get it and switch between it and Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's kind of an Animal Crossing Doom Eternal situation.
It kind of is, yeah. But yeah, next week we'll have a lot to talk about for both games.
Yeah.
But for now, thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Ad Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or any other podcast services you use. Click the link in the description of the episode to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.